Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much guys for coming back to watch my videos. So guys, in today's video I'm going to talk about a visa that is called 186 visa. So this visa is a permanent resident, is a PR visa, but it's not the normal PR visa that we talk about like the 190 491. This one is called employer sponsorship visa, but it's a permanent resident visa. So it is divided into two. It is divided into temporary residence transition stream and the direct entry stream. So I'm going to explain to you and you're going to understand what I mean by this. So just stay tuned and until the end, and you're going to understand what I'm talking about. And before I continue, if you've not subscribed, consider subscribing guys. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Leave a comment, a thumbs up, and share the video with someone that might help. Temporary residence transition stream means that you're transitioning from another visa to this PR 186. And then, so this is what the eligibility criteria is this. You must hold a bridging visa, either A, B, C, or subclass 457 visa, or TSS visa, which is the temporary shortage skill visa, which is 482 visa. So this stream is basically for people who are already in Australia and they are either holding the visas that I've mentioned. So if you're having any other visas, you will not be eligible for 186. For example, if you're in a student visa, you're not eligible for this visa. So because you have to be working for a certain employer so that the same employer is going to sponsor you for the PR. I hope that is clear. The other eligibility criteria is that you must have worked for your employer for the last 3 years. So this is what I basically mean. The employer who sponsored you, if for example they sponsored you for 482, that employer is the same who is going to sponsor you now to get the PR. Not all employers will sponsor you, but just in case your employer has decided or has agreed to sponsoring you, you must have worked for them for the last 3 years. The other criteria is that you must be nominated by an Australian employer and nomination approved within the last 6 months. So the same thing, the same employer who you've worked for the last 3 years is the same employer who is going to nominate you, and is the same employer who is going to he's going to pay for all your fees, and we're going to see what the employer is going to pay. The other criteria is that you have to check if your occupation is on the occupation list for this 186 visa. So this is what I mean. Not all the occupations are in 186 visa nomination occupations list. So you have to go on the Home Affairs and check for yourself. And I'm going to link the occupations in the description box. I'm going to leave a link down there so that you can see for yourself if your occupation is on this stream, the 186 visa, the temporary residence transition stream. Alrighty, so this is what your employer is going to pay for. Your employer is going to pay for your legal fees, which are always paid to the government. Your employer is going to pay for your nomination fees. So when you are applying for your PR, you're always supposed to pay the department the nomination fees. So your employer is going to pay for you all this money, and then he's going to pay for your skilled Australian fund levy. Your employer is going to cater for everything. That is it. The other thing that is eligibility criteria, another one is you have the relevant skills and qualifications. Definitely you need to have the relevant qualifications and the skills. If you're an engineer and you're applying for a PR as an engineer, you must have the relevant skills. That's what they mean. And you have the relevant licensing and registration. So in Australia, there are certain occupations that you need registration or licensing to practice. For example, nursing, you must go through APRA for you to be able to practice. You cannot practice without APRA giving you the licensing or the registration. And then I think the engineers, there's also Australian engineer engineering body in Australia that is going to license you. So you cannot really practice if you're not registered or licensed. The other thing is that you have to meet the health and character check. So definitely, if you have to be healthy, you're going to go through medicals. They'll check your health. You'll have to provide a police clearance just to make sure and to clear you from any criminal history that you might have had. So if you have any criminal history, that might hinder you from getting this visa. The other thing is that you must be under 45 years by the time you apply for this 186 visa. So normally all the PR visas in Australia, the cut point for the age is 45 years. But there are certain exemptions that can apply if, for example, you can exempted if you're an academic lecturer and you're required in a certain university and the university is happy to let you in. So if you're really needed as a lecturer and you're above 45, definitely you're going to be exempted. And if you're nominated as a scientist or researcher or technical specialist, that you will be exempted. If you're a medical practitioner who has worked in your nominated occupation for at least 3 years as 457 or 48 visa holder, and for 2 of those 3 years were employed in regional Australia. So if you've worked in regional Australia and you've worked as a medical practitioner, and because they require medical practitioners all the time in Australia, so you might be considered. And especially if you've worked in regional, they will really consider you if you are above 45 years. The other thing we are going to talk about is the direct entry. Now, the direct entry this one is going to apply for people who are outside Australia. This is very when you go to the sites, employment sites like Seek, Jora, Indeed, when you're going to look for a job in those websites, you're going to see, just make sure you check where they say they are going to sponsor you for 186 visa or for PR. So that is where you can get the employment. That's where you can get the employers who are happy to sponsor you for PR, direct PR. Now, your eligibility criteria for you to be able to go through with 186 visa, the direct entry stream. Number one is you have to have an occupation in the eligible occupation list, and that is the medium term list in the Home Affairs website. So just I'll leave that in the description box, as I had said earlier. The other thing is that you have to have 3 years post qualification work experience, and it needs to be full time. So whatever occupation you're in, and if it is in the occupation list and you've worked for 3 years, you might be eligible. Just check that it meets the Australian standard, and you can see that also in the Home Affairs website. The other thing is you have to have a positive skills assessment. So like, for example, as I've said, ANMAC, sorry. So for nurses, ANMAC is the body that assesses the nurses. And there are other assessing bodies. You can find the assessing body for your occupation in the Home Affairs website. And I can try and link that down in the description box so that you can check the relevant body that assesses your skills. So you have to provide a positive skills assessment. You have to have a relevant licensing and registration. I'll keep giving the example of nurses because I'm a nurse. So for nurses, you'll need a registration from the APRA, as well as also the medical, like the doctors, they'll need, before they can be able they can be allowed to practice in Australia, they'll need to have registration by the Australian body that registers the doctors. The same as for engineers. So if you're an engineer or chef, you have to go through the skills assessment, and it has to come out positive for you to be eligible for this visa stream. The other thing is that you must be under the age of 45. The same applies, and the same exemptions will apply as well if you're over 45 years. The other thing is that you must meet the health and character check requirements. is the same thing. You have to be healthy. They are going to check your medicals to make sure that you're healthy, and then they are going to take your biometrics to make sure that run it in the world database to make sure that you've not committed any crime that might lead you not to get this visa. The other thing is that you must meet the minimum English requirements, which is 6 in each band in IELTS and 50 in PTE in each band. So as long as you're able to get this English requirement and all the other requirements that I've mentioned, be sure you're going to get this visa. So thank you so much, guys. I'm going to leave this video at that. Let me hear what you have to say on the comment section. If you're happy to try this visa, let me know. If you are not ready or you're not happy to use this visa or apply for this visa, and you know someone who might benefit from this information, kindly share it with your friends, family, share it with whoever would require this kind of information. Thank you so much, guys, for the constant support and always coming back to listen to this girl. Up to there, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.